We have a lot to talk about on this edition of the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I'm Nic Rohloff. Jimmy Butler may be traded sooner rather than later. This is coming to you right after the Heat just got embarrassed by the Portland Trail Blazers at home by 9 points in a tough loss to fall to 21-21. But we're not really going to talk much about this game tonight at all because we only have to talk about how a trade for Jimmy may be coming in the next 48 to 72 hours. Why am I saying that? Shams Charania broke this news about 30 minutes before the game tipped off in the 3:05 today. So the Phoenix Suns are trading their 2031 unprotected first-round pick to the Utah Jazz for 3 first-round picks. The Suns acquire the least favorable firsts in 25, 27, and 29. All of them will be the least favorable between the Cleveland Cavaliers and Minnesota Timberwolves, who project to be pretty good over the next 5 or 6 seasons, so likely in the mid to late 20s. But the reason why this accelerates the Jimmy Butler timeline and is signifying a trade soon is because we always knew that Phoenix did not have enough to get this done. They had that very valuable 2031 first-round pick. It was so valuable where it was worth 3 least favorable first-round picks because the Suns project to be a team that isn't very good in 2031 when, per se, a KD, Jimmy Butler are off the roster. And they made this deal because they knew they had to send Beal to a third team. And they also had to attach assets to Beal. But they didn't have any other assets to attach to him other than the 2031 first-round pick. But that would leave absolutely nothing going back to Miami to get Jimmy Butler to Phoenix. What this now does is open up the capabilities for the Phoenix Suns to attach 1 first-round pick to Bradley Beal to where he goes to a third team. Assets come to Miami in the form of 2 first-round picks, but also whatever other players come in on a deal as well. It feels more and more likely that these 3 first-round picks for Phoenix is ultimately going to push a trade further along for Jimmy Butler. And we talked about it on the video this morning, if you watched it, about how trade talks are ramping up, that Brian Windhorst was on a call with a team and literally had to get off the call because that said team was leaving to go do bigger things and talk about a potential move that ultimately was speculated to be a Jimmy Butler multi-team trade. So deals in the talks around Butler are starting to ramp up, which is why you need to be subscribed, because it seems like Jimmy Butler is going to be traded in the next 48 to 72 hours, and when he gets traded, we will go live. Unless it happens at 3 a.m. in the East Coast to where we are sleeping, we are going to go live, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel and don't miss a thing because we will have you covered on everything around the Miami Heat. And my eyes are starting to perk up here, and it was tough to really focus on tonight's game, if I'm going to be honest, when I knew that this Jimmy Butler trade talks were continuing to circulate. And Jimmy, by the way, in this game against Portland, only played about 27 minutes. He did not play the entire fourth quarter. Miami was trailing by 20-plus points in the fourth quarter, so they kind of just let the young guys run it out. They almost came back and won. But either way, when you start to really look at the pieces coming in here, many people have speculated it, whether it be Bobby Marks, whether it be Shams Charania, whether it be other NBA insiders out there, that this move was a precursor to a Jimmy Butler 4-team trade. And it is becoming kind of clear on who the 4 teams are. And the fact that this is starting to kind of take form only speaks to the amount of discussions that are being had in between these 4 teams. You had the report over the weekend that the Pistons are a likely team to try to get on this multi-team deal to help facilitate something. You've also heard about the Toronto Raptors. So to me, it's been very obvious. There are 4 teams coming, and we know who they are. The question is, who is going to be the 4th team? We obviously know Phoenix is going to be involved. They want Jimmy. They're making the deal. The Heat are involved. The Raptors or Pistons will be the 4th team. Who is the 3rd team? It's Milwaukee. We've talked about the Bucks quite a bit, and it was reported over the weekend that if the Bucks were in a deal involving Jimmy Butler, it would actually be more likely of them acquiring Bradley Beal. And you may ask yourself, why do they want Bradley Beal? Well, they wanted him 2 years ago. When Beal was dealt from Washington to Phoenix, he was almost traded to Milwaukee. And it was actually reported from Bradley Beal himself that he thought he was going to either Milwaukee or Miami, who were both in the mix. And then Phoenix came into it and just blew it out of the water. So I think the Bucks are the team that is going to acquire Beal, and then we'll have other shifting parts. We'll get to those shifting parts in just a second, but we are sponsored by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform in North America. And if you want to turn your sports knowledge into real cash, Prize Picks is the best place to do that. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. And the big game is almost here. It's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. Prize Picks is also giving away a free pick for the big game, where one of the starting quarterbacks will only need to throw 1 yard to win. If you are correct on at least one more stat projection, you can win real cash. But the reason why I love playing Prize Picks is the versatility that you can play it with. You can combine sports, football, basketball, hockey. You can combine professional, collegiate. It doesn't matter. I play Prize Picks for every single Heat game, and I actually cashed out for the Heat Blazers game tonight. My original entry included Duncan Robinson more than 2.5 3-pointers, more than Tyler Hero 3.5 assists, and less than DeAndre Ayton more than 11.5 rebounds for DeAndre Ayton. Hero was announced out of the game 30 minutes prior to tip-off, so Prize Picks wiped him out from my entry. It became a 2-player lineup, and both Duncan Robinson and Ayton hit the more than, so I cashed out today. This is just one example of how you can play. Join me and millions of others playing Prize Picks on a daily basis. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, let's get back to the discussion because we talked about the teams that are going to be involved. There is likely going to be 2 different options here. It is going to be either Detroit, Milwaukee, Phoenix, and Miami, or it will be Toronto, Milwaukee, Miami, and Phoenix. It seems like it's pretty locked into if a trade happens, it's going to be Milwaukee, Phoenix, and Miami making the more blockbuster moves, and that either Pistons or Raptors team coming in as the 4th deal. So let's talk about what the deal would be for Miami if the Pistons are involved. Well, I actually think it becomes very simple if that's the case. The Suns get Jimmy Butler. The Milwaukee Bucks get Bradley Beal and one of the 3 first-round picks that the Suns acquired today. The Pistons get Pat Connaughton and maybe a second-round pick because that allows the Bucks to get underneath the second apron, which would then allow them to aggregate contracts in a trade. And what would that allow them to do? It would allow them to ship Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton to Miami. It's a trade that we actually talked about late last week as a hypothetical if that 4-team deal actually occurred. So Beal goes to Milwaukee plus a first. The Heat get Portis and Middleton and probably the 2 other first-rounders that the Phoenix Suns acquired from the Utah Jazz. So Miami gets 2 first-rounders, Portis and Middleton. They can help the Heat team this season, but they also have player options for the next season here. So it'd be a $36 million player option Middleton and about a $14 million player option Bobby Portis. So you're either going to have those 2 as expirings next season or one of them opts out and it's ultimately an expiring this year. I think Portis could help you in your front court as you start to trend towards a Bam, Kel'el Ware starting front court. You get Portis coming off your bench, and Middleton could either be your 6th man kind of scorer or be that starting 3 kind of in between Duncan, Hero, Bam, and Ware. So that actually does kind of intrigue me to a degree because you get 2 first-round picks and you get flexibility for the 2026 NBA offseason. And the other trade that it could happen is if you swap out Detroit and include the Toronto Raptors in this deal. And the deal would change ever so slightly, but keep the same type of deal here, where I think the Bucks would trade Connaughton to the Raptors. They would also get some second-round picks in Toronto. The same type of thing where Milwaukee gets 1 first-round pick, Beal, the Suns get Butler. The only thing that changed for Miami is that they'll still get the 2 first-round picks from Phoenix, but they'd probably get Chris Middleton and Bruce Brown from Toronto. Now, Brown, opposite of Bobby Portis, makes $20 million, so you're getting $7 million back in salary more than Portis is, but Bobby Portis is a guaranteed expiring. He is going to be a free agent this upcoming year. He's in the last year of his deal. So you'd get a $20 million expiring, you still get the Middleton contract, and you get 2 first-round picks. It's intriguing. I'm not so sure which one I prefer, but as long as Miami gets 2 of those first-round picks that Phoenix just acquired from Utah, Middleton, and then either Portis or Bruce Brown, I think it's a pretty good return for Butler since you're kind of held at gunpoint with the trade request from Butler before the deadline. I don't really think either of them is that bad of a deal considering the circumstances. And before we wrap up the show, I do want to know your thoughts on this. Predict it for me. Will Jimmy Butler be traded this week? I have teased throughout the video that I think a trade could be coming very, very soon. Let me know your thoughts. Predict it. Will he be traded this week? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I said this on our live show for our Blazers Heat Watch Party. I think a trade happens before Saturday. I do. I think it happens either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. The more intriguing aspect of all of this for me is what happens if it happens before Thursday? The Heat play the Bucks in Milwaukee on Thursday. If this trade happens, say, on Wednesday afternoon or Thursday morning, it will be absolutely utter chaos heading into Milwaukee on Thursday. Both teams could be without players they are unsure of. The Bucks could be losing 2 key pieces. 2 of them could just hop on the team plane for Miami, heading to Brooklyn on Saturday potentially. It's a very fascinating situation to really keep your eye on for. But I do expect a deal to happen in the next 3 or 4 days. The Phoenix Suns do not make this trade with the Utah Jazz sending out the 2031 first-round pick to get 3 first-rounders in return if they do not have an assurance that they are going to get a deal done before the deadline. No, I'm being serious. Like, dead serious. That is one of the more valuable first-round picks in the entire NBA. That and the Lakers 2029 first-round pick. So for them to deal that away, they feel pretty confident a Butler trade's going to happen, which is why I feel confident it happens within the next 3 or 4 days. And the Jimmy Butler era in Miami is officially coming to a close. And this video will come to a close. Appreciate everyone tuning in here for this long 12-minute late-night video. If you're waking up on the East Coast in the morning and a trade still hasn't happened, appreciate you watching. Hit that sub button because, like I said, if a trade happens on Wednesday, if it happens on Thursday, if it happens on Friday, if it happens on Saturday, if it happens at all, as long as it's not at 3 a.m. in the morning and we're sleeping, we will be going live for that. So hit that sub button. Join us for the #1 Heat content on YouTube.